Welcome to today's session on gearbox design and guidelines to engineering students. The main objective of today's session is to discuss the important factors required for the design of gearbox, and second one, discuss the design procedure of gearbox components such as gears, shaft, keys, bearing, castings and their selections, including other standard components also. But here I am not going to give explanation about how to design the parts, but procedure that I will elaborate or discuss during this session. Learning outcomes of this session is, after this session, you will be able to know the important factors which are required for the design of industrial gearbox, not a automobile. And second one, you will be able to formulate design procedure for different components of the gearbox, and you can easily select the standard components for the industrial gearbox. Now let us see one by one how to proceed. Now first of all, what do you mean by gearbox? The gearbox is simply it's a speed reducing unit or a speed increasing unit. But generally you will find in industrial applications the speed reducing unit is a gearbox, or a gear is also known as a gear reducer. But in some of the applications such as windmill gearbox, you will find where the speed of this windmill, which is increased by using the gearbox to run that generator and to produce electricity. That is the increasing gearbox, and other cases you will find the speed reduction gearbox. Again, different application of industrial gearbox or boxes are in conveyor system, in mills means maybe coal mill or other mills, then paper machines, elevators, stone crushers, sand mixers, and many different applications you will find in material handling equipments also, that is in case of voice or other devices also. Again, here important thing here, what are the important factors while designing the gearbox? You might have prepared your problem statement and might have completed your design work also. But what is the important thing here? You will find in industrial gearbox, the pitch line velocity, generally it is up to maximum 25 meter per second. And you already studied in design of gears, the helical gears, which can be used up to 30 meter per second. But for industrial gearbox, pitch line velocity that is up to 25. But in other gearboxes such as automobile, marine application or aerospace gearboxes, pitch line velocity is about 25 meter per second. That means they are high speed, the gearboxes. And that's why first of all, what you have to decide, the pitch line velocity plays the important role. Second one is the important factor is input speed. Input speed means it is from which prime mover that gearbox, which this gearbox is connected. That means input speed, and second one is the output speed. Output speed means to run that some machines or that device. That means input output speed important. From that, what you have to find out pitch line velocity, and each for industrial gearboxes it should be less than this. And once you have a pitch line velocity, that means it's very easy to decide which type of the gear which is suitable, then how much is the size of the gearbox, or we can decide the compactness of the gearbox also based on the pitch line velocity also. Then second one is the power or a torque to be transmitted. Once you know the power, from that we can easily find out the torque. We know the power is equal to 2 pi mt upon 60. So you will get the torque. Once you know the torque, because the input shaft and the output shaft, you have to take the power at the output shaft. Why the torque transmission is also important in this case? Because through the reduction, again, the sum of the factors that we are going to consider, it may be overloading factor or a load correction factor or different factors associated with the elements which are combined with the gearbox. Now let us take the example of suppose brakes. In some of the the machines you will find at the output shaft there may be brake which is attached to the gearbox, and because of that what would happen, even though you have designed your gearbox by considering the gear ratio or different input and the output speed, but because of the brake you will find the braking torque required to have a braking action at the after output shaft That is also the important consideration while from the torque point of view. That's why we have to multiplied by this calculated torque by rated correction factor or the load correction factor to take the account of that such a different types of loads. Even though suppose for a gearbox, if any the electric motor which is connected, again you will find if there is a continuous the start and stop operation, during that time what will happen in electric motor also, initially the starting torque is more than the running torque, and generally it's 2 times. That's why again power from the power calculated torque, again you have to multiply by that factor again here. That means multiplied by 2 to take the rated torque. Again that torque or maximum torque we can use in our calculations. This is about, that's why torque is plays important role. Then another important point is we have to decide the layout of the shaft. Layout of the shafts means whether it's a parallel, perpendicular, its position, and don't consider based on the gears also. First of all, in which fashion you will require the output of the shaft or the power at the output shaft. And accordingly, you can decide whether the perpendicular, whether the parallel or any other position. Accordingly, we can decide the different classification of the gears. Then space available. Space available means position, maybe on the ground, maybe hanging. Foundation bolts may be required. Again, in hanging, somehow some inclination to the gearbox also. That means space availability. That is also important to fit it. Another one is design for maintenance and assembly. Design for maintenance and assembly means while designing it or while deciding the size of the the gearbox, that means including the casing, that time what you have to do here, so you can take the care. In this case, what care you have to take actually, I am going to use the cursor here. So what care you have to take in this case, maintenance. Design for maintenance and assembly means you can easily remove the parts for the maintenance purpose, you can fit it properly. That means it may reduce the cost of maintenance also. Another one is the lubricant and lubrication system also. That is also important. Then next, operate gear, the O is remaining, operating hours per day. That means this gearbox which is used for 8 hours of service, 10 hours of service, this is also you have to decide before designing the gearbox. The next one is the cost and economy, compactness, its size, the material selection, and many other parameters. Manufacturing, grades of manufacturing, again for a different, the 12 grades are available for gear design. That means which are associated with this cost and economy of the gearbox. And the last one I have written, many more. That means again in many more, we have to take into account the other parameters of the gearbox and which depends on their applications also. Now let us, these are the important factors that we have to take into account and you might have taken while designing your gearbox. Try to understand. Now let us start one by one. Now in this case, you will find speed. First of all, what you have to decide, transmission ratio. Already we have studied that. If there is a 3 stages, input shaft, intermediate, output shaft. The ratio of this, how much is the speed at the output and the input. From that, what you will get? You will get the transmission ratio. Once transmission ratio is decided, from that you can find out the gear ratio or the speed ratio in between different stages. Again, here in many books you will find the geometric progression. That is the the mathematics which is used to find out the number of the speed reduction in each stage. But what you have to do? It's okay. Suppose take the example of here the one of the case. Suppose 16 is the total transmission ratio, and I would like to design a 2-stage gearbox. If I am going to use a 2-stage, 16 is the transmission. So what I will find, how I will find out the reduction in each stage, under root of that 16. That means I will get the 4 in each stage 4. It's okay. But suppose it's a 42. And the 3-stage gear reduction. But we can't divide the 42 into the 3. That means if I have cubic root of 42, you will get some, the number that is like this, 3 point something like this. So what you have to do, always in first step, the gear ratio should be more, suppose a 4. Then in second case, you can take a 3.5. And then remaining stage, you can take a 3. In this way, you can divide that number, even though geometric progression mentioned in many books. This is about the number of stages you can decide and speed reduction in each stage. Then again here, number of, suppose the single reduction. Now here as per our SPP syllabus, you will find If you are going for a single stage or single reduction gearbox, that time you have to prefer only worm and worm gearbox or worm and worm gear drives. But for a two-stage reductions, you have to use spur helical combination, maybe helical, maybe spur or a bevel or a helical. Such a combinations that we have to use according to SPPU. But in single stage reduction, if you are going to use it, the maximum reduction that is up to 6 for all types of gears. Now there are basically 4 types of gear. One is spur, helical, worm and wormwheel and bevel. Suppose in many books you will find worm gear can be used. How much is the maximum reduction is possible in each stage? That is, it should not be greater than 6. But generally it is up to it's okay. In other case, in helical gears also maximum up to, in books up to 8 is given, but you don't go beyond that limit. It should be less. For single reduction up to 6 is the standard practice. But for a double reduction, when the gear ratio or total transmission ratio, it is in between the 5 to 25, then you can go for the two-stage gearbox. Then 3 stages, 25 to 120 point, more than that, above 125. But here, as per our syllabus, we have to give the focus on single and double. That means up to this, or even though it's more than that, accordingly you can go for it 2 stages. But that time, what would happen? The size of the gearbox may going to increase, as you know, the model or the PCD of the gears are going to increase. Try to understand these things. But generally, maximum up to 6. Don't go beyond this. Again, in case of bevel gear, again you will find the speed reduction 1:1 only, just to convert that, you know, to take the power at 90 degree. But up to 3:1, you can use a bevel gear, no problem. And in worm and worm gear, in books many times is rated 100:1, but don't go beyond the 70:1. Up to 70, it's okay. That take into account while designing the gearbox. That means gear selection, which depends on the gear ratio. Then second one is the speed and transmission. Once you will you know the transmission ratio, then speed reduction in each stage and number of stages, you can decide from this by taking into account the which type of gear you are going to use it. Now here, I have already told here, explained the torque to be transmitted. Based on this torque, what you have to do, you have to decide which type of is the input source. If whether the IC engine, diesel engine, electric motor. Why this is important to transmit the torque? Accordingly, we can select the correction or the load factor, and generally we are stating it as a service factor. And this service factor multiplied by the calculated, you know, the torque. So you will get the rated or the maximum torque. That torque we can use to find out the other dimensions of the component. Then second, transmission ratio means input to the output, output to the input. So you can divide. So what will happen? Suppose 2 stages. The in first stage, how much is the torque? In second stage, how much is the torque? And generally, what you have to do, find out the maximum torque at the output shaft. It will help you to decide the compactness of the gearbox. Then position, parallel, angle, which is also related to power and torque. Then layout of the input and output shaft. Whether you have to decide whether the input and output shaft should be coaxial. Again, the positions, that means in your mind, there should be the synthesis. Synthesis means in map of the gearbox should be in your mind for a single stage, 2 stage, 3 stage. Accordingly, you can plan your activity and decide the compactness and size of the gearbox. Then direction of rotation of the shaft. Whether generally you will find the electric motors rotates, you know, the shafts in clockwise direction. That means always you will find the input shaft is also going to through the coupling. When input shaft of the gear drive, if it is connected to that, it is going to rotate clockwise. Because this is also important, because which type of rotation you will require at the output, that is also the important consideration here. Then second one is and why it is having relation with the torque, because in while designing the shaft also, while designing the gears also, again, force analysis of the gear, the direction of rotations plays important role to decide the direction of tangential force, direction of the axial force also. That's why this rotation is important. Then hanging loads, braking arrangement, I have already told, and types of coupling. Sometimes, you know, the rigid coupling is having somehow, you can say, the vibrations, and that vibrations may have an effect on the torque transmission or power transmission compared with the flexible coupling. Generally, flexible couplings are used to connect the primer with the input shaft. That's why the coupling is also plays an important role. So while taking the care of this torque to be transmitted, these parameters are important. and it will help you to decide the load correction factor or service factor, and based on that we can easily find out the maximum torque. Now here let us see the different components of the gearbox. Now here in gearbox you will find generally gears, maybe pinion, maybe big gear, then shaft, maybe input shaft, output shaft, sometimes intermediate shaft, bearings, input shaft bearing, intermediate shaft bearing, output shaft bearing, keys to feed the parts, that is gear on the shafts, keys are used, then casing. Why casings are provided? Generally when the pitch line velocity is greater than 10 meter per second, that time it is mandatory as per the IS code to cover the gearbox to prevent dust particles coming inside and to avoid the tooth failure. That's why casing is provided. Again, casing may be divided into two part, three part. I will cover that part later. Then seals, where the input shafts and the output shafts coming out from the gearbox, where we have to use the seals to prevent the leakage of the lubricant. Again, to prevent the foreign particles to go inside the gearbox. Then bearing caps, over which again here the bearing caps are provided, input output shafts. Then lifting bolts to lift the gearbox, locking elements while mounting the different parts. Then breather cap or air vent. Sometimes heat excessive, there is a heat generation inside the gear. That heat is carried by the lubricant, and because of that vaporization of lubricant takes place, or you will find the moist, the lubricant which is coming out in the form of air. That's why sometimes air vent is required to remove out that mist lubricant. Then drainage plugs to remove the oil, then foundation bolts and many other components. I will explain. These are some of the standard components I have put here. Now let us start all about the gear. First thing in design, what is the first important component in gearbox is the gear design. Now here in gear design, what you have to do? First of all, which type of gear which is required. Again, you will find the straight and spiral. The spiral tooths you will find in case of helical and bevel gear. Generally, we are going to use a straight gear, no problem. But decide whether a spur gear required, helical gear required, when to go for a spur gear, when to go for a helical gear. If you are designing the gearbox, spur and helical, and if input speed is high, that means pitch line velocity is more. Pitch line means V is equal to pi m by 60. That time you have to prefer first pair is a helical gear than the spur gear. Likewise, you have to carry out the study for a low pitch line velocity. Generally, spur gear is preferred. High speed application or high pitch line velocity, helical gear is preferred. Even though gear may be combination of spur and helical, that's why helical gear may be the first pair. Then second one is here, maximum speed reduction ratio. How much is the reduction? Suppose in single stage, suppose the maximum speed reduction I have told in first earlier slide, that is up to 6 is possible. But sometimes in bevel gear, in books, it's 1:1, but up to 3 you can go for that. That means while selecting the gear, you have to take the care of how much is the reduction in each stage is possible by using that gear. Spur gear 5 to 6, it's okay. Helical gear again 5 to 6, it's okay. Maximum up to 8 for light duty application you can do it. Then bevel gear 1:1 or 3:1 or 90-degree power transmission. In one gear up to 40 to 70, 7:1. Don't go beyond this. There is a excessive heat generation. Temperature is a concern. Temperature rise, lubrication another problem. That's why in one gear 70 it's good. That means based on this different reduction, we can decide which type of gear is required for our application. Then in some of the cases, contact ratio and helix angle. Already you studied in theory of machine. Even though sometimes the helix angle, it is in the range of 10 to 30 in case of helical gear. As the helix angle is going to increase, how to decide this helix angle? Whether to take 12, whether to take 15, 19, 20, 22. As the helix angle is going to increase, it is having an advantage. Contact ratio, the term contact ratio. This means the pair of meshing of the gear tooth, which is going to increase more than maybe one pair or more than 1.8 up to 1.8 or two pairs. They are in engaged position. But that time there is a excessive thrust which is going to induce on gear tooth. This is a limitation. That's why it should be within the limit. And if we are going to decrease that helix angle, what would happen? That time contact ratio is going to decrease. But ultimately, our basic condition of contact ratio, minimum contact ratio should be 1.2. That means while selecting this value also, you have to take the care of these limitations and advantages. Then material selection for the gears. Again, while selecting the material, you will find cast steel, plain carbon steel, alloy steel. These are the different materials are available. You can refer the PhD data book. You will find in earlier, the first two topics, the different materials for different applications are given. Directly you can select. Even the combination of pinion, combination of gears are also there. But when you are going for a alloy steels, before that, try to select the other materials for the compactness as well as the cost point of view. Then another one is important, the property. Once you have selected the material, right, SUT, SYT, FOS, BHL, and heat treatment required. Because after selecting the material, no need to select the high or costlier material. We can do the different heat treatments to improve the hardness of the gear tooth or its casing, or we can minimize the cost by using these heat treatment processes. I will elaborate that also. Now look at this here. Generally, you will find in spur gear, when finish and ground manufacturing, maximum pitch line velocity 7, in nickel 10, again finish cut lap finishing, super finish, micro finishing operation here. Look at this lap. You will find by using the spur gear, the pitch line velocity is greater than 10, but general statement is it should be up to 10, not more than that. But when you are going to manufacture the gear having a high surface finish or super finishing, that means cost of machining is also going to increase. So you have to take the care of that. And for helical gear 25. Then efficiency, the efficiency of this spur gear is more. Again here for finish cut and ground, for helical gear 98 to 99%. And bevel gear is also a good efficiency. Only efficiency of worm gear drive is less because of rolling and sliding contact in between worm and worm drive. Again here power to weight ratio. Why power to weight ratio? Compactness and weight, to minimize the weight of the gearbox, and directly to minimize the cost here. It plays important. Now your application factor. I have already told which is the the primor which is associated with which machine. Suppose generator mixer, to run the generator mixer, an electric motor, hydraulic motor, or turbine, they are the primors are used here, and in between gearbox. That time you have to select the application factor 1.25 or 1.75. This data which is for 10 hours per day, and total life of this 22,000 hours. This is the gear life. So what you have to do? This is for 10 hours. But if you would like to, the gearbox which runs for 24 hours per day, that time total life you have to assume that is 50,000 hours. And how to take this, the value of this correction factor? Now here 1, you can multiply it by uniform load condition. 1.25 multiplied by 1, this value becomes 1.25 for 24 hours load. For moderate shock, 1.25 multiplied by 1.25, then you will get the data for 24 hours per day. And if it's less than 5 hours per day, this correction factor should be multiplied by 0.85. So by referring this chart, even though it's available in data book, to select the application factor or the service factor to find out the maximum. Now here, material heat treatment. I have already told the cast steel or plain carbon steels, we can increase their hardness by annealing and normalizing heat treatment process. Again here, the 34 chromium here, all these are the alloy steels here. By induction hardening, only the tip or the tooth surface we can harden to have a the good BHM. Then case hardening steel, again all these are the alloy steels here. Heating chromium, palladium, for all these. That means case hardening is also prepared in this case. That means for different material, different heat treatment processes, we can increase their hardness. Now suppose while solving the problem, you have seen pinion having some BHN, then gears having some BHN. And sometimes, the APS, calculated APS may be less than the recommended APS. That time you are going to say your design is going to fail or it's not safe. That time you have a right to increase a BHN directly without changing the material in your design also. That time you can write, by heat treatment process, we can increase the hardness of the material. And even though after increasing the hardness, you can do the calculation and check it. And if you will find, again it is going to fail, that time you don't have an option. That time what you have to do? You have to go for a change in material of the gears. First of all, change the module 1 or 2 times. That time what would happen? Size of the gearbox may increase. Then check option, increase the hardness by heat treatment process. If it's not possible, then change the material. In this way, you can select the materials for your applications. That is for the gears. Then next point, I would like to say gearbox arrangement. Before designing it, what you have to do? So you have to decide number of stages, number of shafts, number of gear pairs, and arrangement of gears. Arrangement means whether input shaft and output shaft coaxial, whether they are in the same direction towards left hand sides. Sometimes gearbox is known as the left gearbox, right gearbox. Left gearbox means output you will get at the left, right means you will get the output at the right. Sometimes input output may be toward the left hand side, input and output may be right hand side. Accordingly, the pictorial presentation of the gearbox that you have to carry out, it will give you a guideline to you about the position of the input shaft, position of the intermediate shaft, position of the output, their position, their mountings, and it will help you while designing the other components such as hub, cage, and bearings also. Bearings means selection of bearing. Look at this. Now here in gearbox, top portion is the cover, casing cover, bottom is the housing part. Here is the output shaft, here is the input shaft. This is the bearing cap. All these are the studs or the bolts which are used for the bearing. These are the the bolts which are used to feed the upper casing part to the housing part. Then again here the breather or the air vent which is provided for the arrangement for the lifting is provided. In this way, what you in your mind there should be the pictorial representation of gearbox. Then and then you can proceed further to design the shaft and other elements. Let us see. Now here I have taken this photo from PhD data book also. Now in this case you will find input shaft output here. Input shaft is given this small gear. Then again here this is one pair. This is the intermediate. On intermediate gear this is the another gear, and here in intermediate gear you will find two gears are mounted. All these are the helical. It's represented itself indicates it's a left hand, it's a right hand, again left hand. Again here another gear is the helical gear here. Look at this output shaft. That means you have to decide its representation. It will guide you. It's a input shaft where this the location of the that is pinion, intermediate shaft, location of this gear, and another second pinion, then in another shaft, location of the gear. Accordingly, it will guide you while calculating the forces, while calculating the dimensions of the shafts. Now let us see. Design of gear means material selection, maximum torque, first pair calculation. You have to decide weaker of the pinion and gear. Then criteria of design means SB and SW, which one is again lower value you can use in the design. In consider preliminary stages of design means yes upon CV into PT is equal to P effective. And by using this, find out the module. Again in final stages of design, check for FOS. Check for FOS means again you can find out the PD, dynamic load. And based on that, check the FOS for both the cases. If calculated FOS is less than the, assume you can say your design is the safe one, and specify the gears. How to specify the gear? Now here in specification of the gear, pitch diameter, you can make the column here first spur pinion spur gear or helical pinion helical gear, and you can write pitch diameter for both the case. Number of teeth for pinion, number of teeth for gear. Outside diameter, contact ratio, addendum, dedendum, base circle, tooth thickness, center distance, root diameter, pressure, angle, and clearance. Why all these parameters are required? By using these parameters, you can easily construct the front view as well as the top view of the gearbox, because which is required to complete your production drawing or detailed drawing of the spur, helical, bevel, or a worm and worm gear. Again, I have written here speed diameter, where you will get once calculated the module in design of the gears from module and number of teeth, you get the PCD. The number of teeth, module, and PCD. That means once you know the model, from that you will get the other parameters. Again here, while designing the gears, minimum number of teeth, again pressure angle 20 degree, 14.5, 22.5 or 25 degree. Generally you can assume 25 degree full depth. Minimum number of teeth 17 point something is 18 generally that you have to assume. Again, minimum number of teeth also depends on the pitch line velocity. If pitch line velocity is high, the minimum number of teeth to avoid interference and undercutting, that is up to 18. But if pitch line velocity is less, the value is lesser, less than 18 also, that is 17, 16 also, which is already given in data books also. You can refer for that. But while solving the problem, you might have taken minimum number of teeth to avoid the interference. T minimum is equal to 2 upon sine square alpha is the formula. So you will get that is 17 point something. That means that is 18. So you can do the calculation here by using that. But for industrial application gearbox, you can consider the pitch line velocity table to decide the minimum number of teeth. And again, pressure angle. This also decides. If pressure angle is more than 20 degree or less than 20 degree, even though you will get the idea, number of teeth to avoid interference are going to change. Then gear force analysis. Next step, what you have to do? To find out the shaft diameter, you have to calculate the forces acting on the gear. Suppose spur gear which is subjected to radial load, tangential load. Where you will get the tangential load? From the torque, you can easily find out. Then again, second thing, radial load, you can find out the which is acting in case of spur gear. But in case of helical, tangential, radial as well as the axial load. How to decide the axial load? Thumb rule. If whether the left hand is or right hand, if left hand, you can use your left hand. Again, direction of rotation. Look at this diagram. Now in this case, if gear is a right hand, you can put your right hand here. Again, it rotates in anti-clockwise direction. So you can, this arrow, your direction, that means the thumb direction decides the axial force. And it is applicable to helical gear, it is applicable to bevel, as well as it is applicable to the worm and worm gear also to decide the direction of axial force. Again, you will find for pinion, always the PT which acts opposite to the direction of rotation. But in other gear here, you will find the direction of the tangential force and the rotation which is same in case of the gears. That means based on the direction of rotation, you can decide the PT. You can, and again, radial forces always acts towards the center of the gears. It's a separating force. And then axial force, you can decide on the basis of thumb rule on the direction of rotation. And I have already many times explained to you. That means decide this. Why this is important? Because it decides the forces which are acting on the shafts. And once you know these the forces, and you can use the relations which are available for spur, helical, bevel, and the worm gear. By using this relation, you can calculate the forces. Once you know the forces, what you have to do? Go for a design of shaft. So use a ASME code of shaft design. Input shaft, intermediate shaft, output shaft. You can find out the shaft dimension. But again, while deciding this, now you don't know. You have a gear dimensions, forces. But how to decide the length of the shaft? For that purpose, what you have to do? You have a face width here, B. For this gear 1, B for the gear 1. Again, you have to keep here some distance in between these two gears. Again, gap between this bearing position and this bearing position. And then you can decide the length. But while deciding the length, care is taken. There should not be deflection of the shaft. Look at this diagram I have shown. Once you have decided this, the length of the shaft, after deciding it, because it is required to find out the reaction and diameter of the shaft, that you have to do. But whether you have taken this corrected length or decided length, how you are going to check it? By here, you have to check for the deflection. Find out the deflection of the shaft, and this deflection should be within the permissible limit per meter length of the shaft. That you have to check it. And if it's less than that, it is in the range of actually 1 degree deflection which is permitted for 1 meter shaft. So when it's within the limit, you can say your this length is correct. And once you have decided the length, you can find out the diameter of the shaft. You can even check for the design for testing, that is MT G theta by L is equal to MT by R, you know the relation. So you can find out the testing theta also. By using these relations, you can find out the different dimensions of the shafts here. Now here 1 minute is remaining, but I would like to continue this session. I will continue it. All are requested to join immediately because today I have to complete whatever the things related to the gearbox. Now here after designing the shaft here, what you have to do? You have to specify the, generally shaft is not a cylindrical rod, but what you have to specify. Look at this. Now this is a shaft. You will find different steps are provided to the shaft. Why these steps are provided? Suppose your shaft diameter is 25. So what you have calculated shaft diameter is 25. So what you have to do? It should be 25, but you have a choice to increase the shaft diameter in steps. And it is available in Bandari's book. How much is the next step after 25? Maybe 28, then 30, 32, 35, 40. Why we are increasing this shaft diameter? Because to retain the moment of the parts which is to be mounted on the shaft. Second one, accordingly you will get the position shaft diameter 30, but here 40 which is provided. Again here this is the position gear center which is mounted at this position. Keyway is shown. Again this side it is increasing here, this side. That means once you have a shaft diameter, you have a right to increase its dimension. Don't decrease dimension because you have checked for that dimension. You have to increase and make the steps to mount it properly and make the provision for the key or other locking devices, circlips or the other locking nuts or the to fit the bearings properly. You have to make the screws on the shafts also, and you can specify in.
Hello friends, let us have a recap of part 1 with some questions.
it's okay. Now let us start. Now in this case, what we have to do? After calculating the diameter of the shaft, you have to specify us to take the care of this. Now in this case, what you have to do? So you can increase the diameter or provision to mount the different parts for the keyway or grooves, for circlip grooves or other mounting devices. And in your drawing or detailed drawing, the shaft should be like this. You have to construct 2 or 3 shafts, input shaft, output shaft, or each side view also. So that's why I have put here this diagram. Now let us see other things. Now here in case of design of keys. Now how to design the key? So already you studied this part, even though I would like to say, again keys for input shaft, keys for intermediate shaft and keys for the output shaft. Again here, suppose on the input shaft only 1 gear, the 1 key is required. Output intermediate shaft 2 gears, 2 keys are required, but their location should be at 90 degree. And why this 90 degree? To take the care of stress concentration, because on the same shaft we are going to prepare this keyway or groove, and because of that we are removing the material, means we are weakening the shaft here. So that's why key set, key or keyway which is provided. So design the key. Again, how the key is designed already we studied. The key is designed against the shear failure and against the crushing failure. Again, how to find out the the dimensions here? You will find the suppose shear stress is equal to 2 times torque upon dBl or 4 times torque upon dHl is equal to sigma c, that is crushing stress. By using these relations, what you have to do, even though by referring the chart which is available in data book or VB Bhandari's book, suppose diameter is 30, you can select the W and H. By putting this value, find out the sigma c or find out the length of the key, and whichever is the larger or more from the shear and the crushing, you can consider this. Or induced stresses also you can check it. Induced stresses are within the limit, you can see your selection about WH which is correct. This is also the one approach to select the key from the data book. And dimensions of the key which is written in B into H into L, weight into height into weight, means this is B, height H, and L means this is length. And we can show here, and you have to draw this again in your the detailed parts also, different keys, that is input shaft key, output shaft key, intermediate shaft. Now let us see next important point, that is the bearing selection. Again, already you studied in rolling contact bearing, even though I would like to give some highlight within 1 or 2 minutes. What you have to do, here we are not designing the bearing, we are selecting the bearing from the catalog. Before selecting it, but what is the requirement, how to select it? So what is the requirement for the selection of the bearing? So you should know the shaft diameter. Shaft diameter means suppose shaft diameter 25. And I would like to bearing select from the SKF catalog. You are aware of that. Suppose bearing is 6005. Last digit 5 indicates 5 multiplied by 525. 0 means extra light duty. 6 is for single dip groove ball bearing. There are 4 options: 6205, 6305, 6405. That means 4 bearings are available for 25 mm diameter. But it's your choice. You can decide by calculating the dynamic load. But while this selecting the bearing, you should know the diameter of the shaft, life of the bearing. Before selecting it, you have to decide this gearbox is used for 8 hours of service, 24 hours of service, and based on that life of the bearing that you have to assume. Maybe in hours, but you can convert into million revolution. And how to convert it million revolution? 60 NLH upon 10 raised to 6, you will get million revolutions. And once you know the speed of the shaft, that means input shaft rotates at, or if you are selecting the bearing for intermediate shaft rotates at, because of the speed reduction, speeds are going to change. And as the speed are going to reduce, torque is going to increase. And again, last 1 year, once you know the diameter, life of the bearing and speed of the shaft, you can easily select the bearing from the catalog. For that purpose, first of all, what you have to do, find out the equivalent dynamic load. Equivalent dynamic load means P is equal to X FR plus Y FA. The year FA and FR you will get from the load calculations of or from the force analysis, or even though if you would like to do the micro analysis, you can consider weight of the gears and find out the radial load and axial load which is coming on the shaft. And once you will get a FA and FR, by using that X and V are the the radial and thrust factor, you can find out the equivalent dynamic load and multiplied by this rotation factor. It's 1 for a Inner race rotates for outer race rotates is a 1.2. You are aware of that. Multiplied by again load correction factor may be given, or you can assume some value 1.25. You will get equivalent dynamic load. Once you know the equivalent dynamic load, you know the life in million revolution. So use load life relationship. Load life relationship means L is equal to C by P raised to small p. Small p is equal to 10 by 3 or 3 based on the whether for a ball bearing or the rolling contact bearing. And once from that C means dynamic load that you have to calculate. And once you know the dynamic load, you can refer the catalog and check it. Calculated dynamic load and selected bearing for 25 mm diameter out of that 4 option within the limit or not. The calculated value of dynamic load should be less than the given in data book or catalog. Then you can say your design is selection is perfect. Otherwise, you can select other option, light duty, say in medium duty, go for a heavy duty. Likewise, you have to do selection of the bearings. Now, this is about the bearing. Again, input shafts, separate bearing, output shaft, intermediate shaft. But here, sometimes when you are going for a bevel gear and a helical gear or a worm and worm gear, you will find there is a thrust load plays important role on thrust load. And because of that, sometimes single dip groove ball bearing is sufficient to take that axial load. You have to check it for that. But if it doesn't satisfy your condition of low dynamic load carrying capacity, there is another option, that is thrust bearing, the taper roller bearing. You have to go for a taper roller bearing. So you have to select a taper roller bearing for a helical, bevel or worm and worm mill. Before that, check single dip groove ball bearing. And again, this procedure is given in Vivandare or many books are it's available. You can easily select the taper roller bearing. But while selecting it, they are used in pair. Try to understand. Suppose bevel gear, the bevel pinion which is a overhang. So in overhang gear, you can't use only one. You have to use in pair. Maybe back-to-back arrangement, maybe face-to-face arrangement. Try to understand. In this way, you can select your bearing based on your application and based on the loads. But data required is diameter of the shaft, life of the bearing that you have assumed based on the service of the gearbox, and third one is the speed of the shaft. Then next point is construct layout of gearbox. Now you have a shaft diameter, you have a shaft length, you have a bearing sizes, and you have a size of the gears. So what you have to do, again on a paper, all gear dimensions with you, all shaft dimensions with you, all key dimensions, all bearing sizes. So roughly you can construct your layout. Which type of layout? Already before designing the shafts, before designing the selecting the bearing, you have already decided this, the construction. So accordingly, now you can construct it. Once you have constructed it, because why this construction helps you, this construction decide housing for the gear or casing for the gear, or casing may be into 2 part or 3 part. Look at this diagram. Now in this case, casing is divided into 2 parts. Bottom is this housing and top part is the cover. Sometimes is known as upper casing, sometimes known as lower casing, or is known as housing, and this is known as the cover also. Right? Different words or the nomenclatures are used in different books. So now here, once you have constructed, so you will get the idea about the housing. Again here in this case, housing in this way, but you have a choice. You can decide in number of ways also. For that purpose, the different manufacturers catalog, gearbox manufacturers catalogs are available. You can refer this catalog. Accordingly, you will get the idea about different layout of the gearboxes. Accordingly, you can plan here. But when you have to plan? Before starting the gear design, before starting the shaft design. Once here, that's why I have put here one step here. Here, gearbox arrangement. Here you have to decide before designing all these things. After designing, it's not possible to decide. Otherwise, what will happen? The position of the gears are going to change, means shaft dimensions or forces acting on the shafts are going to change. Try to understand. That means you have to decide before design of it. And once you have decided, you have to decide the housing. Let us see. Now here I have taken this, the graph. There is one book, Mitra's Gear Handbooks. Mitra's Gear Handbook. I have taken this diagram from this handbooks. It's available. Soft copy is available with me. If required, I will put it on your, the WhatsApp group also. Now look at this. This is the length of gearbox. How this length of the gearbox is decided? So the PCD. Now, once you know here, I would like to show from this diagram. Look at this. Look at this. This is the PCD of pinion, PCD of this gear. Again here PCD of this. That means from this up to this, you have this length. Once you know this length, you have to keep some margin towards this side. Maybe the multiplying by this space width also here. And it's your choice. How much is the margin you have to put towards this side? So what you will get here? Length of the casing you will get here. And how you are going to decide the width of the casing? Width of the casing based on this, refer this intermediate shaft. For this intermediate shaft, this is the face width. Again, there should be the gap between these two gears up of the base width. Again, this space width, you can add this space width plus gap plus space width. Again, gap. Again, you have to provision. There should be the provision of gap. For what purpose? To mount or to feed the different locking devices. So accordingly, you can decide the length here. That means you will get the length and width here. Try to understand. And once you have decided this length, from this length, this is the overall length of the casing. Now look at this T1. What is T1 here? T1 is the wall thickness. In this case, it is assumed here wall thickness of the lower half T1. Look at this here. In this case, this is the upper part and this is the lower part of the casing. It is divided into two parts here at the middle. The lower part thickness given T1. How it is calculated? 0.012 into L plus 5 mm. L means length of this casing. So you will get T1 thickness. Then how to find out the T2? T2 means it is in the range of 0.8 to 1 T1 here. The calculated T1 you can multiply it by 0.1 or directly consider it as a T2 also. So you will get same thickness. T1 is equal to T2. Then we have to calculate the thickness flange of this upper casing, flange of this lower casing thickness. T3 and look at this. This is 3T, 3T. How to find out this thickness here? The 3T we can find out 1.5 times the T1. That T1 from this. Then thickness of the bottom flange, that is T4, this flange bottom thickness, 2 times the T3, 2 times the T1, sorry, 2 times the T1. That means it's more than the thickness of the upper wall or the lower wall. That means by using this relation or this handbook, even though there is one another design data book, VB Bhandari's design data book is also available. If it's with you, you can refer the chapter number 5 also, where you will get the dimensions of the casing also. So in Maitra's book and in VB Bhandari's data book, these dimensions are available. I have taken this figure from the here handbook of Maitra, and I have giving some formulas. Look at these relations. Once you know look at this. This is the thickness of upper wall, thickness of the lower wall, then thickness of the flange thickness. Then if you are going to see, observe from this side, look at this. How much is the this bolt position up to this wall thickness? Again, it is all the foundation bolts. How much are the sizes of foundation bolt? How much is the size of the thickness of this foundation? Then how much is the position of this axis bolt from the wall thickness of the gearbox? Here you will get all the idea about from this VB Bhandari data book. Thickness of housing wall. But here in VB Bhandari book, thickness of housing wall, which is calculated from the A means center distance. So what you have to do, first of all, find out the center distance means center distance of output and center distance from input. You will get the center distance. Once you know the center distance from input and output, don't consider input and intermediate. Input and output, then you can then center distance multiplied by 0.025 plus 5, you will get the thickness of housing wall. Cover wall means upper casing, 0.02A plus 5. Thickness of flanges. Flanges means this flange here. Look at this thickness. How to decide this? Here it is given. That is 1.5 times the thickness of the housing wall. Then thickness of foundation flange. Foundation flange means this foundation flange here. You will get this 2.4 into T. Then thickness of ribs. Sometimes ribs are provided. Now here ribs to give the support. Even though to mount the shaft, to have a support properly inside while casting the casing, because the cast iron is the material which is used for the casing purpose. Some ribs, to give the supports to mount the parts or the shafts, the ribs are provided, even though we can easily find out the thickness of these ribs. Then diameter of the shaft foundation bolt. How to find out the diameter of the foundation bolt? Mean these bolts. Look at this diagram here. So for that purpose, the relation is given 0.03A plus 12. Diameter of the bearing bolt. Bearing bolt means Now here, the for bearing cap here, the bearing bolts are used to fit it here. Then next one is the securing bolts for cover and housing. Sorry, here these are the this is a bearing cap or a bearing cover which is fitted to prevent the the dust and other particle which is coming inside. But this bearing cap, it's a closed one. But for the input and output shaft, it's a open one. It's having a the hole at the center, and this the dimensions of this you will get from this securing the diameter of the bolt. Diameter of the bolts for bearing cap. Then distance of foundation bolt axis from the housing wall. That means this is foundation bolt axis and housing wall. How much is should be the distance? That means by using this empirical relations here, so you can easily find out the dimensions. Again, other dimensions are also given. After this, I will record it and I will upload to the the YouTube channel. You can refer that, and if you have a V. Bhandari's design data book, I have taken from this data from that book. Now here, after the casing, what you have to do in casing, you will find here in this diagram. I would like to show here. Look at this. Here, the cross marks are shown here. Look at this in the casing here. The provision here. All these are the dowel pin marks. Why this? The pins are provided, which may be provided on upper or the lower casing, but is for proper alignment purposes. So you will find their position here. So dowel pins are provided for precise alignments while mounting the inner or the upper casing and lower casing properly. The projected part, that is the dowel pins, which are provided, and it prevents the relative movement, and accordingly there is a proper alignment of the casing parts. That's why dowel pin, and they are shown here by the plus signs. Look at this here. All these are the dowel pin marks here. The next point is this also you have to decide size of the dowel pin L and D. Then air vent. I have already told vents or the breather, the caps in some of the cases, breather caps, which is provided. Why it is? Because of fitting, it increases the pressure inside the housing. Because of frictional, it lubricating oil in the form of mist. And to take it out, that this is the opening is provided, and we have to decide the size. How much is the size based on the thickness? Again, what you have to do for that purpose? Refer the design data book. Again, in Mytra's data book, even though in PG data book, these values of this which is given, and generally M12 or up to maximum up to M16. So generally M12, that is the the air vent which are preferred for the industrial gearboxes. The size here, nominal diameter of this bolt here, this is the bolt, and which is fitted here, and it's a hollow one through which here this the oil or mixed oil which is coming out. The next one is the drain plug. Another important component is the drain plug. Why drain plug is provided? If there is a drain plug, to take out that fluid or a lubricating oil, which is drain out. But again, you will find its position at the bottom side. Again, inside surface of the casing at the bottom, it should have some inclination or some slope. Because of that, we can easily remove the oil. And towards this slope side, look at the arrow where I am showing. Look at this arrow. Here you will find it's the inclined one, somehow inclined. And here you can show the position of the drain plug. Again, what we will to decide how much is the nominal diameter of the drain plug. Then is distance again from this the cover, or you can say the collar. Again, how much is the distance gap between this the width of this or height of the collar. Then total length of the bolt. So again, what you have to do, generally M16 or M20 or M12 bolts are available. Drain plugs are available in different sizes. You can select it from the catalog also, or from manufacturers. Drain plug manufacturing companies are also there. You can select from them also. Then another thing, drain plug to remove the oil. To insert the oil in gearbox, there should be the opening, oil opening. Again, you can use one, the bolt arrangement at the top to put the oil in the casing. Along with the drain plug, oil input plug, or you can say the bolt. Then dipstick or oil level indicator. In some of the gearboxes, you have to use the dipstick to check the oil level. Or sometimes what you have to do, you can put a transparent, the oil level indicator. That means you can easily observe how much is the oil. Generally, how much is the oil inside the gearbox, that you have to decide here. Look at this. Now in this case, input shaft, output shaft, and gears are in this way, which are mounted. The first pair gear, suppose one gear, then another gear, third gear. The gear in pinion, which is the smaller one. So what you have to do, oil level should be in such a way that the depth of that Tip of that should be dipped inside the oil sum. Accordingly, you can decide the level of the oil, or sometimes it should be 4 to 6 times the model also. Again, here important point that you have to take into care while deciding the oil level, its position on the gearbox also. Look at this. I would like to say again another important. Sometimes suppose oil level indicator you are going to put it here, but oil level may be low or may be high, but there should be maximum level, there should be minimum level. Accordingly, you can look at its position on the gearbox. Let us say another important components of the gearbox. These are standard parts. How to decide the standard parts? Now here hexagonal nut and bolts. Again, you already studied in machine drawing or CAD CAM or second year subjects. The hexagonal, you know the different sizes of hexagonal and nut and bolts. Where these nut and bolts are required, now you will find here to hold it this upper casing and lower casing, you have to select the nut and bolts to mount it or to fit it properly. So you have to select it. So that's why the standard dimensions of pitch dimensions, then root or the crest or the head dimensions, hexagonal nut and bolts are given in data book. By referring that, you can select standard nut and bolts. Then second, again, if you are going to use a nut and bolts, the washer is required again to distribute the pressure after tightening it uniformly. Again, you have to select the washer. Again, washer, I have shown here the washer. It's a circular disc, small circular disc. This is the D, this is the diameter. D means nominal diameter of the bolt. Again, for M 16, 24, 36, D is the diameter. Then this capital D, and yes, this means width. Already all this, you know, the tables are available in data book. You can refer from the data book. But just today, I would like to give the guidelines how you are going to decide. This is also the important part, and you have to represent it on your detailed drawing assembly also. Detailed drawing as well as assembly drawing. Then lock nut and lock washer. Sometimes to fit it to mount the part properly and retain its axial and radial moment, you have to use the lock nuts also. So what you have to do, lock nuts are also available in the data books. So you can select already in, you know, the construction machinery manual, how to retain the parts. I have already explained this point. So you can select lock nuts, sometimes rings, oil seals. Now important part is the oil seal. Now we wear the shaft which is coming out and going inside. Look at this now here. Again, it's the input shaft and it's output shaft. Intermediate shaft is a closed one. So no need to use a oil seal for the intermediate. But here at this one end, input shaft, and another end is the output. Only two oil seals are required here in this case, as per the openings, input and output. But while decide selecting, again, it's a standard component. Generally, you will find here, I have taken this figure from the Micro Rubbers company website. Look at this. It's a lip type oil seal. Now here some here, you know, look at the cursor. It's a spring, or it's known as a garter spring. Because of this spring having some stiffness, because of this directly which comes in contact with the shaft, there is a dust lip, and lips are provided. That's why it's known as a lip oil seal. Sometimes different oil seals are also available, different oil seals are available, but is standard size here. Shaft diameter is given, then seal diameter is given here, then bore outer diameter is given, seal OD is also given, seal width is also given, bore. Again, all these nomenclatures are available in data book. So what you have to do, you have to decide the input shaft diameter and output shaft diameter. After you have to take that input and output shaft diameter, and preparing the chart from the data book, you will get all the dimensions of these lips. But again here, there are different, you know, the two types of lips are available for a extra, that is light duty application, heavy duty application. So accordingly, you can decide whether a high speed heavy duty application of a gearbox, or whether your application for a light duty low speed application, or low speed heavy duty application, or light speed high speed application. Accordingly, you can select light duty series or extra or heavy duty series or A series or B series, which are available in data book. And from that, you can select your oil seals for input shaft and output shaft only towards one end, where the input shaft coming out and where output shaft coming out. Try to understand. Then second important thing, its designation. How it is designated. Look at this. OS means oil seal. 30 means inner diameter. Inner diameter, it is mentioned here, inner diameter of the oil seal. Then outer diameter. Here, look at this outer diameter from this side. Only this figure is shown from this side also. Then width. I have already shown here the width. Then now here style. Whether which style means whether a lip. Again in this case, the slip whether towards the right or towards the left, it's a style. And I have shown here only the elliptical circle R and G. It is sometimes it is not necessary to designate by using the R and G. Sometimes in some of the cases, these R and G features are required. So this is the designation of the oil seal. So what you have to do, two oil seals input output shaft, they are coming out. You have to select and you have to construct this diagram also in your assembly as well as that detailed drawing. And based on the shaft diameter, you can select from the catalog. Now let us see another important point is the eye bolt selection. How to select the eye bolt for application? Generally, purpose of the eye bolt is to lift and transport. And generally, if it's lifting, you will find this portion of the threaded portion of the eye bolt, which is subjected to the tensile stresses. But how to select the eye bolt from the catalog? Again, in catalog, different sizes of eye bolts are available. Maybe M12, maybe 16, maybe 20. But what you have to do, how to select it, I will elaborate within 1 minute. First of all, find out the weight of the gears. That means for that purpose, to select the eye bolt from the catalog, you should know the weight of the gearbox. And for that purpose, what you have to do, the first of all, find out weight of the gears. And how to find out the weight of the gears? Standard relations, which is given here, 0.0018 into S width of the gear into Z means number of teeth on the gear into module. That means suppose two-stage gearbox, 4 gears are there. For 4 gears, you have to find out weight of the 4 gears by using this formula. Every time here, this Z, B, M, which is going to change. Only meshing pair M remains same, but Z are going to change. Accordingly, you can find out weight of the gears. Again, weight of the shafts. How to find out weight of the shafts? Mass upon volume is equal to density. So you can find rho into G into AL means volume. The area means pi by 4 into d square. L means length of the shaft. G means acceleration due to gravity. Rho means weight density of the material. Material density. Which material which is used of the shaft. Accordingly, you can find out all the weights. Input shaft weight, intermediate shaft weight, output shaft weight. And then once you will get total weight, what is the stress? Permissible tensile stress is equal to force upon area. Force means weight. The weight upon area. So what you have to do? Find out this stress induced in it because of this weight. And your material which is used for this, so you can do one thing. You know the weight, you know the permissible tensile stress. Permissible tensile stress you will get from the material of the eye bolt. Try to understand. And area means pi by 4 into DC square. DC square means core diameter of the bolt. That means force means weight upon pi by 4 into DC square is equal to permissible stress. You will get permissible means allowable. You will get from the material for the eye bolt upon FOS. So you will get DC, core diameter. And once you will get the DC is equal to capital D upon what you have to do? Capital D upon the 0.84. So you will get nominal diameter. In this way, you can easily find out the nominal diameter. Then another important points which is remaining, that is selection of lubricating oil. Again, here in many books or Mitra's book, you will find simple way. The pitch line velocity plays important role. If pitch line velocity is medium means up to 10 meter per second or 10 to 15 meter per second, gears are enclosed in gearbox. And that time we are going to use a oil. Otherwise, grease or semi-solid or solid lubricants are sufficient to take the care of the gearbox. Then again here, important thing, mineral oil grades. Then if pitch line velocity is medium, 10 to 15, then EC 80, EC 90 are preferred. And heavy duty application, you have to go for a mineral oil with additives, that is EP lubricants. These are the guidelines. Based on the pitch line velocity, you can easily select SE 80 or 90 grade oil also. If your pitch line velocity, and where you are going to take the pitch line velocity for a high speed shaft, where you will get the pitch line velocity, you can consider. And accordingly, you can decide whether it's a medium, high or low. Accordingly, you can select the grade. This is one option. Second option is, again, I have taken this from machinery lubrication. Look at this. The selection depends on temperature. Generally, how much is the temperature which is going to rise inside the gearbox? So you will find it is up to 55 to 60, not more than that. And because of that temperature rise, so what you have to do, by assuming temperature inside the gearbox, maybe 50, 55 or 60, up 60 is the maximum one, try to understand. So you can assume 50 or 60 or 55. Once suppose 55 is assumed, so what you have to decide, first of all, check out the how much is the pitch line velocity. Suppose it's 5. 55, 5 is the pitch line velocity. So what is 150? ISO VG is 150 that you are going to prefer. And if pitch line velocity 15 or 55, the 68 ISO VG oil. So you have to write ISO VG 68 oil is recommended. Again, in data books, how to convert that ISO VG 68 oil into the SE oil chart is available. So you can convert into SE or directly write down ISO VG oil. Again, there is another, the relation, empirical relations in terms of temperature, in terms of viscosity of or oil or viscosity index of oil, which are available. By referring that empirical relations also, you can select the lubricating oil, which viscosity is required for your application. Accordingly, viscosity index you can select, and from the viscosity index, you can select the lubricating oil. So in this way, you can select, even though you can refer the chart, or even though you can base on the pitch line velocity, medium load, heavy load, and different grades of oils are available. So from that, you will get the idea. Pitch line velocity is important, that means speed. Second, viscosity index, that is another thing. And temperature, how much is the temperature which is inside the gearbox. Accordingly, you can select it. Now, next important points, mounting of the parts. Once now I have explained all the things and all the, the elements which are required for the gearbox. The next step is what you have to do. You have to decide the different mounting parts. You have to retain its axial moment. Suppose gear is mounted here, but here step is given. Why step is provided? It prevents movement towards this side, because if it's a helical gear, there may be axial force, there may be possibility of movement. That's why step is given. But how to retain from this point? Spacer, which is provided. Again, mounting, I have already explained here for EA, but for TC students, you have to take the care while mounting these parts. What care you have to take? You have to retain the axial as well as the radial movement of the parts. Accordingly, you can use locking devices. You can use here the rings or the different, the elements which are available in data book to lock it properly, radially as well as the axially. For radial, generally keys are also used sometimes from this side. Snapping, you can use it from this side. For that purpose, grooves are provided on the shaft. Accordingly, you can fit it properly. The different elements are available. You can use it. Now here, once you have decided all the things, what you have to do? In assembly drawing, you have to show its front view, you have to show top view and side view also. Now here in front view, it's all these are the closed one, casings are provided. But by constructing assembly drawing, by using, the drafting software, you have to use the drafting software. At that time, you have to cut this section. Suppose you can cut at the middle part, you can open it, because when you are going to show in the top view as well as the front view, so there should be visibility of the gears. In top view, you will get the gears, means your diagram should be, or your figures, front view, top view, maybe like this. Maybe like this means, look at this, it's a top view. It's an input, this is pinion, it's a gear, again another pinion, another gear. That means here it's a top view. When you are going to observe from the in front view, it should be the circles. You will get one circle for a pinion, another circle meshing with for a gear, another on the same shaft, another circle, another gears. That means again here, the bearings are shown. Look at this, bearings, then bearing caps. This is the casing parts. Then again here, sometimes, the representation for helical gears. Per gear means horizontal. Then again, bearing caps. That means in this way, you have to construct front view as well as top view and the side view. Don't show directly the covered one. All the components of the gear should be visible while constructing it. Try to understand. Then next one, it's it's a top view. I have taken the case, same figure is here. It's a top view. Similarly, you can construct front view and the side view. That work you have to do. But here now in this session, I have elaborated all the things: design, then selection from standard part selection from the catalog. But in one important point remaining. So what you have to do? You have to go for you have to use to complete your production drawing. Limit, pitch, tolerances, surface roughness symbols, and geometric tolerances. Try to understand. And for all the components, all the parts, we have to show the allowance, the geometric tolerance, then surface roughness values, dimensions, everything that you have to incorporate. And then you can easily construct your detailed drawings, and all should be available. But again, you have to select the fits also, how you are going to fit it, gear on the shaft, then key on the shaft, key on the gears, the different fits, that also you have to use it. So already you studied in first semester DIME 1, so you have to take the care of. And even though in your report, after constructing all these things I have mentioned today, you can add the limit pitch tolerances for all the components, 2 or 3 pages that you have to add it at the last. And based on that, you can complete your drawing. Thank you. As per my knowledge, I have described all the points or the parameters. If you have any query, you can WhatsApp me, you can mail me. WhatsApp is the best option. I will answer. And even though 2 minutes are remaining, if anyone